Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to go over the trades we ended up taking on Friday inside the Discord, as well as the game plan going into tomorrow and this week. So on Friday, like the last couple of days, I've been expecting a dip in the market just because of how extended this chart was. I've been talking about it the last couple of days. When we get super extended from this 50, we usually see a significant pullback, and we kind of got this on Friday, back to the 50, but at this point, it's still super like it just looks very weird. Like I know we're getting this dip to the 50. If we look at the higher time frames, we're probably going to get a more of a dip down in these larger time frame 50s. If anything, this may just end up losing all these 50s with how we're probably going to open tomorrow. I know futures open in like 15 minutes. We're going to gap down probably like 400 points on NQ. So probably going to lose the trend tomorrow if I had to guess and get put in a neutral range. Maybe we go and cross on the 30-minute at some point tomorrow. On the put side, that'd be great in my opinion. I'd love to get some trend going to the downside. So that's kind of the thought process. I was expecting us to get a significant pullback, and it's just been taking its time. I mean, when we get super extended, like I said, it did trickle back down. But even at this pullback, I mean, I'm not really confident that this trend was going to hold at this point on Friday. I mean, it's just super extended in general, and we're due for a pullback after like ripping however many percent last week, like 4%. I think maybe that's probably what we went up, like 3-4% in 1 week, which is quite a bit. So yeah, that's kind of my bias. So I was looking for trades to the downside, and what did we end up trying to get on Friday was a short. So I tried playing this cross on the 0DT. It just didn't end up working out. We got stopped out on this. So 680 puts, 0DT chart, 5-minute time frame. This is what I tried playing right here. This 10 crossing the 50. The 50 finally curled up in here, I think, on this candle, and then that's where I ended up starting my position. And then I added a little bit more on this dip down in the 50. And then once we actually ended up losing the 50 by quite a bit, I got out. Like right here, I didn't get out because it looked a little funky to where it could just prop back up, which it ended up doing. And then we couldn't get back above that 10 SMA. That was pretty much our make or break spot. And you guys can see we end up crossing back down right here, or losing the 50, and then this is where I got out. I got out on this candle because, again, this candle wasn't really a significant close below, so I waited for more of a confirmation that this was probably not going to end up, giving the move. So I got out during this candle. I don't even think we made a new high on NQ, so I think we lost probably around like 25 points on NQ, so, relatively small loss in that trade. And I'm going to show you guys what the chart ended up looking like to where I didn't stop out. There's a big gap between 10 and the 50, so this is what we actually ended up looking like. So I'm going to drag this over here. You guys can see big gap between 10 and the 50. We're still hovering right at the 50. I didn't want to get out of this. Didn't make sense to. So yeah, I stayed in the trade. And then once it got back below, that's where I got out. So that's where I ended up stopping out on the trade on Friday. That was pretty much it. There wasn't much opportunity. It was a slower day. And yeah, very, very simple day. Going into this week, like I said, futures are probably going to gap down a bit. I'm not sure, what we're going to look like off open. I know futures open, we're going to be down like 400 points on NQ. What are we going to look like by 9:30 a.m. tomorrow? I have no clue. We're going to have to see how that ends up playing out. But, going into this week, even, before we have futures being down so much, this is what like my thesis was here. 4-hour time frame for next week's contract, or this week's contracts. Look what we have. It's a 4-hour 50. This is such a massive, massive spot in the market, and I told you guys on Thursday we're going to be getting new contracts on Friday, and I'm still going to be bearish. I mean, this is a massive resistance spot, and given how much the market moved up this past week, this 4-hour 50 pretty much, in my opinion, is guaranteed to get a rejection just because of how extended we were. We're hitting massive resistance, so I'm expecting this to reject, and obviously that's probably going to end up happening with futures being down so much. But I'm not in anything. That's just kind of like my bias and outlook going into this week, and why I was expecting us to see a move lower. Tomorrow, can be looking for some sort of trade to the downside, most likely. It all depends on how we open up. It could be very volatile open, and who knows, maybe we don't really get much of a setup tomorrow if we move a lot overnight. But my focus is probably going to be to the downside, or if we get extended from the fib levels, we could actually get a long to take. So if we break like 3 fibs in a day, I will take that. So if we open down like quite a bit tomorrow, 400 or 500 points, there's probably not going to be a 0DT cross we could take. If anything, it's going to be a fib level to short or a fib level to long. So if we go over to ES here, what are we going to be looking at to take? So this is what we currently got. If we gap down quite a bit, we're probably going to hit the 67.34 if I had to guess tomorrow. and depending on where we open, if we cross negative on the 30-minute, that means we're going to be in a new neutral range. So if we cross down 30-minute time frame on the call side, it's a new neutral range. Wherever we cross down between, like if we're between 67.34, 66.62, and that's where we cross negative, okay, this is the range, and then you wait for a break of it. So if we break to the downside below 662, okay, flip the fibs, you flip the 100%, 0% mark, and you move the 0% mark to this new pivot high right up in here, and then your 100% is going to be still down here. That's how you change the pivots. That's if we end up crossing negative on the 30-minute between these two levels. It could be between these two levels. It could be between these two levels. It just depends on where that is. Well, it won't actually be the 50% mark. My bad. I didn't realize that was 50%. So it'll probably be between this 65.91 and the 67.34 level. And honestly, if we hit the bottom of the range, maybe I'll try a long, because that'll be quite a bit of fibs. If we break through 1, we break through 2, this will be the third fib on the day. At that point, I probably will be trying a long at 38.2 if that is the bottom of the neutral range, just because of how extended this drop is. But again, we'll see how we open up. That's kind of the game plan. I mean, it's kind of all over the place because we have to see how we open. So yeah, it's either gonna be a very extended move to where we long a fib, or we end up getting a short off of one of these fibs, or the 67.34 fib, if it somehow lines up with the 0DT chart, 0DT50, and the 30-minute chart looks like it's going to be crossing negative, something like that. So yeah, but pretty simple game plan. If you guys enjoyed, drop a sub, join the course if you want to learn. I'm out.